Representative Bobby Champion. We're talking about the big story today. The big story is that our state government is shut down, partially at least. And the question is, what's the impact of that shutdown on our community? Joining us by telephone, two other legislative leaders. State Representative Frank Hornston, who heads the Transportation Committee, the subcommittee, I think it is.
Well, Transportation Committee, he's our minority leader. When we were in majority, of course, he was one of our chairs.
And also State Representative Jeff Hayden from 61B in South Minneapolis, who is the assistant minority leader. And so, Bobby Joe, give us some background. What's the issue right now for our community?
Well, the issue period, Al, first of all, let me say thank you for having me on. But the issue is, what do we do in order to solve this $5 billion deficit? And when you begin to think about solving it, you have two opposing views as to how this should be approached. When we think about Governor Dayton's perspective or position, it's that we should take a balanced approach, which is a mix of cuts and raising revenue in order to deal with the deficit. It is also a belief, by taking the approach that Governor Dayton has put forth, it allows us to still keep the integrity of our progressive attitudes, our progressive positions, in order to continue to improve our quality of life going forward. Now, the majority decision, which is the Republican majority, just says it should be all cuts. We should just cut, and we don't need to raise any more revenue. That's just the way it is. And if you look at the history and what has happened over this legislative session, there hasn't been an all cuts approach that has integrity without taking or stealing money from our local municipalities, or even our our county's transit improvement board. They take money from even a Doug Johnson fund that we could talk a little more about, which is PILT, which is payments in lieu of taxes on the Iron Range. So it's been a lot of unfortunate things that have happened. So when we begin to think about this as Minnesotans, what reflects Minnesota's priorities? What do we believe to be important? And we can talk much more specifically about the majority's proposed bills and their impact on education, because there's a cut to education, higher education. There's a tremendous cut to higher education, transportation, which you're going to talk to Frank Hornstein about, as well as just some other critical areas, public safety. And not just that, because most people have been focusing on the budget issues, which is a big issue, but there's been some unfortunate policy bills that have gone forth that we need to dive into as well, so we can really get a true understanding as to what is going on and what's at stake for our state.
I'm AlMcFarlane. You're listening to Conversations with AlMcFarlane. State Representative Bobby Joe Champion, representing 58B in North Minneapolis, here in studio.
And also the North Loop and half of downtown.
That's right. Half of downtown, North Loop, and North Minneapolis. Thank you, Representative Champion. Also, by telephone, State Representative Jeff Hayden, who represents 61B in South Minneapolis. Jeff, are you there?